Lika stood at the doorstep of her new life, her heart racing with fear and uncertainty. She wasn't just entering a new home. She was stepping into a world shrouded in secrets, where every step forward could lead her into the unknown. Her mother had passed away a few years ago, and since then, her father's life had changed completely. All three of his daughters were very beautiful, but the youngest was the most intelligent of them all. Her name was Lika. Kwame loved his daughters deeply. He never let them feel the absence of their mother and made sure to fulfill all their wishes. As the years passed and his daughters grew up, they started cooking meals for their father. Every time Kwame left for work, his daughters would prepare food and pack it for him. In the same village, there lived a widow with her daughter. The widow had a habit of going door to door, begging for things. She would often come to Kwame's house, asking for firewood, just when the girls were cooking. But Lika, the youngest daughter, never liked that widow. Whenever she came, Lika would say to her sisters, "Why does this woman keep coming to our house? I don't like her at all." Her elder sisters would calmly explain, "She is a poor widow. If she takes some firewood from our house, what harm does it do?" But Lika would say, "You'll see. One day, this woman will bring trouble upon us." And so the routine continued. The widow came every day, asking for firewood, and every time she had a chance, she would sneak ashes into Kwame's food. One day, Kwame noticed that the food tasted strange. He thought his daughters might have made a mistake while cooking, but he loved them too much and couldn't believe they would ruin his food. So he decided to quietly observe them while they cooked. He saw his eldest daughter washing rice with clean water, his middle daughter cooking the stew, and Lika cleaning the dishes. Everything seemed perfect, and the food was ready. But just then, Kwame saw something that made the ground slip beneath his feet. That same widow entered their house, asking for firewood, and Lika was arguing with her. Her sisters tried to calm her down, saying, "She's just a poor widow, Lika. Let her take the fire." But while they were distracted, the widow sneaked ashes into the food, ruining it completely. Kwame was furious. The next day, he called the widow to his house and, in a voice full of anger, asked, "How dare you spoil my food?" But the widow, in a dramatic gesture, came close, placed her hand on his chest, and said, "I just wanted to see if you truly love your daughters. If you would scold them when the food is bad, but you turned out to be a good man. You didn't blame them at all. Now I believe you truly love them. I promise this won't happen again." Kwame, moved by her words and charm, believed her. Instead of being angry, he was so taken by her beauty and sweet words that he decided to marry her. Without consulting his daughters, he brought her home as his wife. Soon after the wedding, the new wife began to show her true feelings. She hated Kwame's daughters and wanted them gone. She started planning different ways to get rid of them, believing that if they left, she and her daughter could live a luxurious life, and Kwame's attention would be solely on them. She knew Kwame loved his daughters dearly and could never bear to see them hurt, but she found ways to make them suffer. Her daughter wore fancy clothes to seem fashionable, while Kwame's daughters were forced to do all the housework. She didn't feed them properly, and slowly, she started to cut off their other needs. The girls grew sad, feeling the unfair treatment. One day, the two older sisters were crying when Lika came to them and said, "My dear sisters, let's go somewhere outside. Maybe it'll refresh our minds." So the three sisters left the house and wandered until they reached a forest. There, under a thick tree, they sat and cried, remembering their late mother. Just then, a pious old man, known for his kindness, passed by. Lika was sitting on the ground, weeping and praying. "Oh God, we are helpless girls, so full of sorrow. You can see how our stepmother is treating us. So cruel, so unjust. We have been hungry for days." The old man overheard her prayer and stopped. He gently asked, "My daughters, I see you often sit under this tree. What troubles you so deeply? Can you share your pain with me?" Through her tears, Lika told the old man everything. Hearing this, the man was moved. He said, "Daughter, not far from here is my little hut where I live and pray. Outside my hut, there is a pomegranate tree full of ripe, juicy fruit. Go there and eat as much as you like. The three girls happily went to his hut. They found a beautiful tree covered in red, ripe pomegranates. Each of them picked one, sat down, and ate the fruit, their hunger finally being satisfied. When they had eaten their fill, they thanked the old man and returned home. After that day, whenever their stepmother denied them food, they would go to the forest, eat from a tree, and return home. The girls grew healthier, their faces glowing with happiness, and they became more and more beautiful. But their stepmother began to wonder. I don't feed them. I make them work day and night. I insult them, yet their faces glow, their health is fine, and they are getting more beautiful. My own daughter, whom I feed so well, looks dull and unattractive next to them. The next day, when the sisters went to the forest, the stepmother sent her daughter to secretly follow them. As the sisters picked pomegranates and ate, Lika noticed her stepsister nearby. She whispered to her sisters, "That girl is following us. I'm going to chase her away." Lika quickly hid the pomegranate in her hand and said, "If she tells her mother everything, it will cause trouble for us." But her elder sisters stopped her. "Lika, what are you saying? She's innocent. Just because our stepmother mistreats us doesn't mean she does." They sat the stepsister down and offered her a pomegranate, but the girl didn't eat it. She ran home and told her mother everything. "Mother, they're not starving. There's a pomegranate tree in the jungle, and a holy man who lives nearby. He doesn't even stop them." The stepmother was furious. She thought to herself, "How do I stop them from eating those pomegranates?" She stayed angry all day. When Kwame returned home from work that evening, he found his wife looking upset. He asked, "What's wrong? Why you look so distressed?" She replied, "I have a terrible headache, and no medicine is helping." Kwame asked, "Then how can it be cured?" She immediately said, "There's a pomegranate tree deep in the forest. If you cut it down from the root and boil its roots to make a paste, I can apply it to my forehead, and the pain will go away." Kwame said, "That's all? I'll take care of it." He hired some men and paid them to uproot the tree and bring him the roots. Within a few hours, the tree was destroyed and the roots were delivered. Kwame lit a fire, made the paste, and applied it to his wife's forehead. Soon, she smiled and said, "I feel much better now." The next day, when the sisters went to the forest, they were devastated to find that the pomegranate tree had been cut down. They sat under the trees and cried, mourning the loss. Hearing their cries, the old man appeared from his hut. Seeing their grief, he gently said, "Why cry, daughters? God will give you something even better." He pointed to the ground. Suddenly, a small stream appeared, but instead of water, milk began to flow from it. He gave them a clay cup and said, "Drink as much as you wish." The girls were overjoyed. They filled the cup and drank the sweet milk until they were full. They thanked the old man and returned home, feeling happier than they had in weeks. From that day on, their daily routine became to go to the stream, fill the clay cup with milk, and drink. The stepmother noticed their glowing health and asked her daughter, "I had the pomegranate tree destroyed, and I barely feed them, yet they're more beautiful than ever. How is this possible?" She ordered her daughter to follow them again and find out the truth. Once again, the stepsister secretly followed them into the forest. This time, she saw the sisters drinking milk from the stream, using the clay cup. Lika looked back and saw her stepsister standing quietly behind them. She quickly whispered to her sisters, "She's here again. Hurry, get up. If she sees this stream, she'll go tell her mother and all will be ruined." But her elder sisters scolded her. "Lika, what's your problem? Yes, our stepmother is cruel, but what did this innocent girl do?" Lika went quiet. They invited the stepsister to sit by the stream and gave her a cup of milk. The girl drank it and immediately ran back to her mother to tell her everything. The stepmother was pleased. She called a few men and said, "I'll give you as much money as you want, but you must go into the forest. There's an old man's hut and a pond there. You must destroy the hut and fill the pond with soil. In return, you'll be paid handsomely." Within a short time, the men returned after doing exactly as she had asked. The next day, when the three sisters went to the forest, they found that the pond had disappeared and the old man's hut was gone. The girls were heartbroken, as if a mountain of sorrow had fallen on them. They sat there, crying, before returning home hungry and thirsty. The stepmother, upon seeing their misery, felt immense satisfaction. One day, she pretended to be ill again and lay in bed. In the evening, when Kwame came home, he lovingly said, "Even if I have to sell everything I own, I won't let anything happen to you. I'll get you treated by the best doctor." But his wife had other plans. She said, "You don't need to do all that. To save my life, you just have to do one small thing." Kwame asked, "Tell me quickly, what is it?" "I'll do it." She replied, "You have to take the blood of your 3 daughters and rub it on the palms of my hands and feet. Only then will I be cured." Hearing this, Kwame's heart broke. He loved his daughters deeply and didn't want to harm them. Silently, he walked out of the room and began searching for them. But the daughters weren't at home. Worried, he searched until he reached the graveyard, where he found his 3 daughters crying by their late mother's grave. Seeing this, his heart trembled. On one side, there was his wife's wish, and on the other, the lives of his daughters. Kwame didn't know what to do. He thought, "My wife will never be happy with my daughters, and my daughters can never be happy living with their stepmother." So he decided to take his daughters far away. Hugging them, he said, "My dear daughters, why are you so worried? Let me take you somewhere else." He took them deep into the forest, built a small mud stove, cooked food, and fed them. After eating, the daughters slept peacefully under a tree. Kwame left them there while they were asleep and ran away, thinking, at least they'll stay alive and escape their stepmother's cruelty. On his way back, he hunted a deer, took its blood, and gave it to his wife. She applied the blood to her hands and feet and happily said, "Now I feel better." She truly believed that Kwame had killed his daughters. Meanwhile, when the 3 sisters woke up and saw their father was gone, they began crying and calling out for him. Frightened by the sounds of wild animals in the forest, they grew terrified. Coincidentally, 3 friends were out hunting in the same forest. As they were returning, one of them, Kofi, said, "I feel like someone is in trouble. Don't you hear someone crying?" The others agreed, and they followed the sound until they found 3 beautiful girls sitting and weeping. Kofi stepped forward and asked, "Why are you here alone, and why are you crying so much?" Lika told Kofi the entire story. The boys felt deep pity for them and said to each other, "Why don't we marry them? They'll get shelter, and our lives will become more peaceful." So all 3 men married the 3 sisters. Lika married Kofi. Coincidentally, the friends' homes were near each other. The sisters began living happily in their new homes, far away from their stepmother's cruelty. A year later, Lika gave birth to a son, and everyone, Kofi's friends and sisters, were filled with joy. As time passed, Lika's son turned 2 years old. One day, Kofi said to his friends, "I feel like going hunting in the forest again." But his friends refused, saying, "We have important work. We can't go with you." Kofi then asked Lika for permission and went into the forest alone. But days passed, and he never returned. Lika became extremely worried, and her sisters, too, became anxious seeing her in distress. One of Kofi's friends, who was now Lika's brother-in-law, comforted her, saying, "Don't worry, we'll definitely bring Kofi back." But fate had other plans. The friends went into the forest to search for Kofi, but they too never returned. Once again, a mountain of sorrow fell upon the 3 sisters. One day, while Lika was putting her son to sleep, there was a knock at the door. She opened it and saw an old mystic, dressed in green, standing there. Lika said, "Baba, my husband is not at home. I cannot let you in. Please come back when he returns." But the mystic said, "Daughter, I'm very hungry. What harm is there in feeding a hungry man?" Reluctantly, Lika let him in and began preparing food. But that mystic was no ordinary man. He was a sorcerer. He kept watching Lika with sinister intent. He got up and came close to her, saying, "Listen, girl, I really like you. Leave your son and marry me." Lika trembled in fear and replied, "Baba, what are you saying? I'm married and I have a son. How dare you say such things? The sorcerer grew furious. Using his dark magic, he transformed Lika into a dog. He tied a rope around her neck and began dragging her away. Meanwhile, Lika's son began crying loudly. Hearing the cries, her sisters rushed to her house. They hugged the child and searched the house for Lika, but she was nowhere to be found. Now, just like their stepmother, Lika had also disappeared. Time passed. 14 long years went by. Lika's son had grown up, raised lovingly by his 2 aunts. One day, his aunts told him the truth about his mother. Upon hearing it, he was deeply disturbed and said, "Nia, I will go find my parents today." His aunts tried to stop him, saying, "Son, what had to happen? The forest is dangerous. You are all we have left." But Lika's son, whose name was Kwame, was determined. He said with firm resolve, "No, Nia, I can feel in my heart, my mother is still alive, and I'll bring my father back too, or die trying." He packed some food, took a wooden stick for protection, and left before dawn, stepping into the same forest that had once swallowed his entire family. The trees were tall and twisted, and shadows seemed to whisper. But Kwame kept walking. As the sun began to set, a strange silence fell. Birds stopped chirping. Even the wind seemed to hide. Suddenly, he heard a whimper, a weak, pained sound like that of a wounded animal. He followed the sound deeper into the forest. There, under a tree, tied with a thick rope, was a dirty, old dog with sad human-like eyes. When Kwame got closer, the dog looked at him and started crying, actual tears. Kwame stepped back, shocked. "What is this?" he whispered. But something in his heart told him this wasn't just a dog. Suddenly, he remembered the stories his aunts told him, the sorcerer, the disappearance, his mother. He went closer and said gently, "Ma, are you my mother?" The dog whimpered again and nodded, as if trying to speak. Just then, a strange laugh echoed through the trees. From behind the bushes stepped out the same old sorcerer, now even more terrifying, with glowing green eyes and a snake coiled around his neck. "So, the boy finally arrives," he hissed. "You want to save your mother? Huh, you're too late." Kwame stood tall and fearless. "I'm not scared of you. Let her go." The sorcerer laughed. "You think it's that easy?" He raised his hands and the forest shook. Thunder cracked, trees bent. But Kwame didn't flinch. Then a glow began to rise from Kwame's chest. It was his mother's pendant, the one she had left behind when she vanished, now shining bright. It blinded the sorcerer. He screamed. Kwame pointed the pendant at him. "You've tortured enough lives. This ends today." A burst of light shot from the pendant and hit the sorcerer. He screamed one last time and then vanished into thin air, leaving behind only ashes. The rope around the dog fell off, and slowly the dog began to change. Before Kwame's eyes, the animal transformed back into a woman. Wounded, thin, but still the same, Lika, his mother. "Ami!" Kwame cried and hugged her tightly. Tears rolled down her cheeks as she held her son after 14 long years. After resting for the night, Lika told Kwame that the sorcerer had kept Kofi, her husband and Kwame's father, trapped deep underground. With the help of the pendant's light, they followed the hidden path through the forest, past thorny vines and enchanted stones, until finally they found a small cave with stone doors carved with symbols. Lika touched the pendant to the symbols, and the doors opened. Inside was Kofi, weak, chained, but alive. "Lika, Kwame." Kofi could hardly believe his eyes. Together, they broke his chains. The family was finally reunited. They returned home, where Lika's sisters cried with joy. The whole village heard of Kwame's bravery and the end of the evil sorcerer. Lika, Kofi, and Kwame finally got the life they were denied for years: peace, love, and family. And the three sisters, once abandoned and broken, had now built a legacy of strength, love, and resilience. Those who were meant to leave have already gone. Now we don't want to lose you too. Our husbands also went into the forest and never returned. If you go too, then who will we lean on to live? But Kwame, Lika's son, replied with determination, "Nia, don't worry. I will find my father and everyone else, and I will bring them back." He set out toward the forest. For days, he wandered aimlessly through the wilderness, unsure of where to look for his parents. Eventually, while searching, he reached a rocky region where the land was covered entirely in stones. There, he saw stone buildings and a small, beautiful stone house. As he stared at the house, an elderly man stepped outside and said, "Son, you seem new here. What brought you to this dangerous place?" The boy replied, "Baba, I've come in search of my mother, father, and uncle. A sorcerer took my mother, turned her into a dog, and disappeared with her." The elderly man's face darkened. He said, "Son, this area belongs to a very powerful sorcerer. Anyone who dares to challenge him, or even insults him, gets turned into stone. The stones you see around you were once human beings. The sorcerer turned them into stone. Some years ago, a young man came here. Then 2 more followed. He turned them into trees and rocks. And there is a pure-hearted girl who has been imprisoned for 12 years. The sorcerer wants to marry her, but she keeps refusing." Listening to all this, the boy's heart trembled. He thought, "This girl must be my mother, and those other prisoners, my family." He had finally found them. He told the elderly man everything and pleaded, "Baba, please help me. Show me a way to rescue them all." The elder, whose hut had once been burned down by Lika's stepmother, smiled and said, "Son, God always helps those with good hearts. You must not lose courage." The saintly old man had once been forced to live in that cursed land. He promised the boy, "I will help you." In his heart, he thought, perhaps by saving this boy's mother, the rest of the prisoners can also be freed. To protect the boy, he told the villagers, "This is my grandson. He has come from another village to visit me." When the sorcerer sensed that a stranger had arrived in the village, he came straight to the elder's house and asked, "Who is this boy?" The elder replied calmly, "He's my grandson." And this is how the boy and the sorcerer met. The boy kept his identity secret, but continued to meet the sorcerer. The sorcerer took a liking to the boy. "You seem intelligent and kind like your grandfather," he said. "Tomorrow I have a task for you. I'll send you to a girl. I want you to deliver my message. I want to marry her." The boy understood instantly. He was being sent to his mother. He was filled with joy. He planned to take her flowers and reveal his identity when the time was right. Many years ago, during their wedding, Kofi had given Lika a ring with his name engraved on it. Later, Lika gave that ring to her son. Years passed, and the ring was reshaped, but it was still the same ring. The boy was wearing it even now. The elder told him, "Hide your ring in the bouquet. When your mother sees it, she'll recognize you instantly. But be careful. This task is not easy. The sorcerer has posted a guard to keep a close eye on her at all times." The sorcerer respected the elder deeply and considered his grandson pure and trustworthy. So he began sending the boy with a bouquet to Lika every day. Since the boy was only 14, the sorcerer had no suspicion. Lika was kept locked in a room where no man was allowed to enter. Each day, the boy brought flowers, but Lika was always accompanied by a maid who never left her alone. One day, luck favored him. Lika was alone in the room. The boy quickly removed his ring and tucked it into the bouquet, placing it at her feet. As the bouquet hit the ground, the ring made a faint sound. Lika, startled, picked it up and immediately recognized the ring, the very same one she had once given her son. Her eyes shot up toward the boy. Their eyes met. In that moment, the truth was clear to both. Lika, trapped by the sorcerer, now knew her son had come to rescue her. Lika pretended to agree to the sorcerer's marriage proposal. While gaining his trust, she discovered his secret. The sorcerer's life was bound to a parrot, locked in a cage hidden under a dense forest tree, protected by heavy guards. She passed the secret to her son, but begged him not to risk his life. But the boy reassured her. "I'll succeed, Emmy. I promise." After days of struggle, he reached the forest. He waited for the right moment, slipped past the guards, and stole the parrot. He returned to the sorcerer's palace with the cage. The sorcerer fell to his knees. He begged, "Please, Give me the parrot back. The boys, smart and brave, struck a deal. First, release all the prisoners. The sorcerer had no choice. He freed Lika, Kofi, the boys' uncles, and everyone else. Then, the boy plucked a few feathers from the parrot. The sorcerer screamed in pain as his powers weakened. And finally, the boy twisted the parrot's neck. The sorcerer died instantly. The boy had won. He had freed his mother, father, and all the other innocent souls. They returned to the kind elder, who blessed them all. Lika's sisters were overjoyed to reunite with their husbands, who had been trapped for years. Their father, who had been consumed with grief, cried tears of happiness when he saw his daughters alive. He apologized and confessed that everything had happened because of their stepmother's cruelty. The daughters forgave him. They said, "We're happy now. That's all that matters." Their stepmother, the one who had wronged them all, had died a horrible death from a vile illness. And so, at last, they all began a new life. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe and give this video a thumbs up until I bring the next intriguing story your way. Bye for now.